Hey, welcome to the Interaxis YouTube channel, interaxis.io. We recently had a video talking about lending, and we really went into lending in the traditional world so that we could see all the different parts. And we did that so that we could discuss lending in the decentralized world and show all the parts we're kind of having to replicate and codify in order to create lending in a decentralized place. So if you remember, in the traditional world, we talked about the collateralized loan. Collateralized loan. Okay. And in doing so, we talked about a mortgage as probably the most prominent of the collateralized loans, right? Now, in the decentralized world, that's pretty much what happens. We've seen a lot of protocols that have tried to kind of replicate that collateralization. But what they've tried to collateralize is actually other cryptocurrencies. So, Atom, again, I might hold, 10 ETH, and I say, wow, I'd really like to borrow some money, and here's my collateral. Because I can't spend 10 ETH anywhere. No one is accepting ETH. On top of that, I think that the value of ETH will go from, $200 up to $400. And so I want to be able to hold this. However, I want to get money out of it. So I can, the protocols have been built that I can lock up my 10 ETH. It might be worth $2,000, but I can only borrow, say, $1,200 out of that. And the reason why you have to have more collateralization, 150, 200% collateralization in the crypto world is because the value of ETH is so wild, right? It's a roller coaster like this. So if I get my loan when ETH is valued here and the value of ETH drops down here, well, now I might be under collateralized, meaning I pledge my 10 ETH, right? So $2,000 worth of ETH into a smart contract, okay, with the value of ETH at $200 each. And I borrow $1,200. So what this smart contract is essentially saying is, I owe this $1,200 back. And I might be paying it constantly or monthly, or I might just pay it back after a certain amount of time. This $2,000 worth, or this 10 ETH, is being held here. And if I don't pay it back, this is automatically going to the wallet of the lender. Okay, this 10 ETH will automatically go there. It's wrapped in a smart contract. There's nothing we can do about it. That's the beauty of this. So if the value of ETH goes from $200 down to $100, and this 10 ETH is now worth $1,000, this lender could potentially be out of luck, right? Because he might go, oh my gosh, now I only have $1,000 worth of ETH. There's no reason for me to pay this back, right? Because I got my $1,200. I'd rather just give up the 10 ETH at that point if it's only worth $1,000. So I'd rather just let him have it. Well, he doesn't want that. Because then, he's essentially lost $200. So the contracts have been built, have added this feature that says, okay, if this ever gets to a point, if the value of ETH ever gets to a point where it's equal to this $1,200, it's automatically going to liquidate the contract, right? This guy is never at risk for losing more than he's loaned to me. Now, the reason I might want to do that again is because I think the value of this 10 ETH is going to go to $400, and this is going to be worth $4,000. And at that point, I can take half my ETH out, so I can take 5 out of this smart contract and leave only 5 in here. And I can, maybe go do it again. I can sell this. I can spend it, whatever I want to do. But the goal here with the first instances of decentralized lending, of DeFi lending, was I have cryptocurrency. I don't want to sell it in order to spend money, so I'm going to use it as collateral. Well, the beauty of cryptocurrency is with cryptocurrency, you can wrap it into a smart contract and have it collateralized and held in that smart contract where I can't go sell it, I can't run away, anything like that. If I run off, if I run away from that loan, if I never talk to that person again, if I die, whatever it is, that that ETH at some point is going to go into that other person's wallet. So they have a lot of faith in this system, in this code-based system. All right, so a lot of what we've had to do in smart contracts and in decentralized finance for lending is codify, is write into code on the blockchain a lot of the rules and everything we have in place in the traditional finance world. The beauty of this system, above and beyond where I talked about in the traditional finance system with the home, is if I go mortgage my home that's worth $250,000, and here's the bank over here, and I can't pay my loan anymore and they have to collect, this is a real pain for them. This is really hard for them to do, to come take my house, kick me out, clean it up, sell it, hire an agent, all those things they have to do to sell a house. This is really easy. This is just a smart contract that it automatically happens. It's great. Now, there are several protocols out there and protocols being built that will allow this process where we can come together potentially in a marketplace and come to terms, right? So there are all these people that come into a marketplace wanting to borrow on one side and wanting to lend on this side, and we could potentially get matched up. So if I say, look, I want to borrow 100 DAI, and there's someone who says, okay, I will lend you 100 DAI, you have to put up 150% collateral, and I go, okay, well, if ETH is worth $100, I put up 1.5 ETH in the collateral. We agree, but this is all in code. I don't know this person doesn't know me. We don't have to know each other. We have solved through this exchange or this relayer, we have solved the problem of scale that I talked about in another video, whereas there are a lot of people that want to borrow, there are a lot of people that have money to lend, and we need to put them together. We don't know each other, we could be in different places in the world, but the great part is we can come together in this exchange. We don't even have to look at credit worthiness or anything like you have to with a mortgage or a car loan or something, because at this collateralization rate, at 150% collateralization and locking into smart contracts, this person doesn't have to know me at all. They don't have to come collecting or anything. All they know is if I don't pay, they get my ETH. Okay, and I can set it up to where I'm paying regularly from my wallet to their wallet. They can probably then go sell this smart contract on another exchange, because now this smart contract is just an income stream. They can go sell it and just get some money for it. And now my payment that is going to the smart contract to this person is now going to whoever buys this smart contract, right? So now you've created a secondary market for this debt. And the great part is it's all available, it's all immutable and transparent on a blockchain. So someone can go look at this smart contract and see that I'm making my payment, see how it's collateralized, and they can go, oh, I want to buy that. I want to buy a whole bunch of series of income streams, and I have a bunch of money that I can pay right now for it. Now all I want is income coming in, because that's more important to me than the money in my pocket right now. And someone can come into this exchange and go, I'm going to buy a whole bunch of income streams, and I can look across all these debt tokens that are available. So that's part of the beauty of the collateralized lending. Now, where that's going to really go in the future, that's important is not so much if I have Ether that I'm holding, or some sort of cryptocurrency that I want to get a loan against, because I think the value is going to go up. Okay, because not everyone in the world is going to just own Ether and think the value is going to go up and want to get a loan against it. What they're going to have potentially is security tokens. And I did another video about security tokens, but they might have investments, right? So they might have XYZ real estate token. They might have, I've said GE stock potentially could be tokenized. They might have these assets that are sitting in a wallet, and they go, well, I want to get a loan for it. In the past, or in today's world, they have to go to a bank. The bank assesses their credit worthiness. The bank will look at assets, so they might look at, well, you have these real estate investments, you have GE stock, you have a 401k, whatever. we will give you a loan at a certain interest rate based on the fact that you could potentially sell this GE stock. You might not be able to sell this private investment right now. And they might give me a loan and they might count this, 100% towards my collateral and this as only 50% because it's a lot harder to get out of. But what we're going to see in the future is I might come into this exchange or this relayer, and there are all these people all over the world who are willing to lend money. They have money out there to lend, and I might come in wanting to borrow, and I don't want to sell my GE stock because I think it's going to go up in value. I don't want to sell my XYZ real estate security token because I think it's going to go up in value. But I need to borrow money. Well, I can wrap some of this. I can say, look, I will use this as my collateral. And this lender might go, oh, well, since it's a private company, I'm going to need that to be 125% collateralized or something. But what we can do potentially is put all that into a smart contract. All right, I can borrow $50,000 for instance, put some of my XYZ real estate security tokens in here as collateral, and I can most likely in the future even set it up to where the income stream I get here, the distributions I get, go to pay back the loan, right? And if at some point I'm no longer paying back this loan, this lender can now take over these security tokens. So they can now have some of my XYZ. It might not be all of them, but they can take some of them. So if I have 1,000 XYZ real estate tokens and I only had to use 500 of them as collateral, they might be able to take those 500 now because we've wrapped them in the smart contract. And the great thing is, even though it's a private company, since it's a security token, we didn't have to go through repapering and legal channels and everything else. We can just make that exchange. They can just take my XYZ real estate tokens because they were part of the smart contract and the collateral. So at the point where I was no longer paying back this loan, they just get that. So what you're going to have is all these people that need to borrow money, they don't necessarily have to go to a bank anymore because you're going to have all these people all over the world willing to lend. And we don't have to know each other. We don't have to trust each other. We don't have to get credit reports or anything because we can actually lock up assets as collateral into smart contracts. You're going to have many more people able to lend money and make some sort of interest rate on it, and many more people able to borrow without having to go into the bank and go through that process. So what you're going to have is a reduction in fees and a reduction in friction. All right, and lending is really what makes the economy move forward, right? It's the ability that I can have some sort of asset and then borrow money to do with whatever I do. I don't have to sell that asset. I can go borrow it. And the bank can take my money, or someone can take my money, or I can use my money and lend it to somebody else so that they can go make more, or they can do whatever they need for their life. That is what really propels the world economy forward. So that's how collateralized kind of individual peer-to-peer exchanges are going to work. And that's where we see a lot of the importance in the future, because you can use those individual collateralized lending contracts, those smart contracts, those protocols that are being built for those individual loans like that. We can use it for trade finance, right? We can use those smart contracts for trade finance terms between a supplier of materials and a construction company. Right, we can just lock in the terms in a smart contract and use cryptocurrency, stable coins like DAI to denote the terms. We can use it in shipping. We can use those same protocols that are being built in the decentralized world for lending on so many different in so many different industries. Now, what we're seeing, and where we're seeing a big push right now in the collateralized, decentralized lending world is is pooled loans. Right, and this is where a good deal of the DeFi, of the cryptocurrency, is being locked up right now. And a pooled loan basically means, look, I have ETH sitting around, or I have DAI sitting around or something, and I just put it into this big pool of money. And there are other people over here that need to borrow. Right, so I'm essentially lending to this big pool of money, and there are these people wanting to borrow, and there's a certain amount of ETH or a certain amount of DAI in this pool. And when they come borrow it, they might borrow it at, 15% interest, right? And they have to put up collateral. I'm willing to lend, so I'm locking up this into a smart contract for some period of time. And of this 15%, I might be getting 12% interest paid back to me. And this number are constantly fluctuating based on how many people are willing to lend at the moment and how many people are willing to borrow at the moment. But I don't necessarily have a connection or a smart contract or a relationship with this person directly. My relationship and my smart contract is with the pool of funds. There's this pool of funds. This is kind of like a bank, right? I'm putting my money in and I'm getting an interest rate, and this smart contract or this DAO or whatever it is lending money out on the other side to people who need to borrow. And as this is fluctuating, the interest rate is constantly changing. So these are pooled loans. These are firms, DeFi firms like Compound and such are doing these pooled loans that are right now producing a great deal of interest. But for the moment, it's a lot of people who are lending or borrowing ETH or DAI for the moment. And it'll I guess remain to be seen how Compound and protocols and dApps like that move forward in the pooled side, because it's not necessarily peer-to-peer, it's peer-to-pool and then pool-to-peer. So that is a little bit about decentralized lending and why it's important. It's so important because what we're going to be able to do is collateralize assets and increase the number of people who are able to make loans and increase the amount that you're going to be able to borrow and the terms and everything else without having to necessarily go through the bank. So we're lowering the friction again and the fees, and we're disintermediating a bit, and we're using code, or we're using exchanges and relayers and such to take out those intermediaries. So hope you enjoyed this one. Don't forget to subscribe to us, our YouTube channel. Find us at interaxis.io and on Twitter at interaxis8. Let us know if there are any other videos, any other topics you want us to discuss.